Today's presenter is Macaria Meyer. Macaria Meyer graduated from San Jose State University with a Bachelor of Science degree. In 1980, she was approved for an American dietetic traineeship at Washington Hospital in affiliation with UC Berkeley. Macaria is a registered dietitian and a certified diabetes educator.
Welcome to Food and Mood and how to feel good with food. I don't know about you guys, but eating always makes me feel good. But can food really change the way we feel? Well, think about it, okay? If you're really hungry and you're cranky because you haven't eaten anything for a while, well, eating just about anything is going to make you feel good, right? Okay. Happy. That's how we want to be all the time with food, right? But how you're going to feel afterwards is going to depend on what you ate, how much you ate, and how you were feeling before you ate it. Okay, so for example, if you're really hungry and you haven't eaten anything for a while, that's probably because your body's telling you got to fuel up, okay? So that's physical hunger. So, but depending on what you eat, okay, you're either going to feel good for a little while or you're going to maybe not feel so good afterwards. So if you grab a candy bar, how's that going to make you feel? Feel good for a little bit, right? And then you're probably going to have a crash in energy. Or let's say you've been busy at work and all of a sudden it's lunchtime, you haven't really eaten any breakfast, and you're really starving. And everybody said, hey, let's go to hometown buffet or something. Or let's go to a buffet. I said, yeah. And so you're starving, so everything looked good to you. And what do? Eat everything in sight, and since it's all you can eat, wow, I want to get my money's worth, okay? So even though maybe you've chosen the right kind of food, how are you going to feel about that? You're going to have what? Food coma, because you ate too much, not necessarily because you ate the wrong things. Now, let's say it's Friday night, and you already had dinner. You had your good food, of course. And then you're sitting there watching TV all alone with your remote control. And you're starting to feel like, oh my God, it's Friday night and I'm sitting here. And then all of a sudden you get hungry. And then you're thinking, oh, I remember I have ice cream in the refrigerator. Oh, that sounds good. Because since I've already eaten my meal. So you go and grab it and you're eating and you're thinking, well, you know what? I have Girl Scout cookies. Because, we have to support the Girl Scouts of America. So you sit there and you start eating the cookies, and, you're starting to feel good. But then after a while, you look, and you've eaten all the box of cookies, and you've eaten the ice cream, okay? And now you start to feel really bad. Why? Because you're guilty that you ate the whole thing. So first, you were okay, and then you were what? You were either sad or depressed or bored, so you ate something. So now you're feeling really guilty. Now you feel even worse. So that's emotional eating. So when we eat, we have to think about these things, okay? We have to be able to use food, okay, to suit our needs, and that is to be able to have as much energy as we can that will last us all day long and keep us brain from being foggy. How's that? So, can we really change the way we feel? Well, I guess we can do this because there's been research that's been ongoing that shows that we can change our mood, the way we feel, by changing the brain chemicals that is here, okay? They're called neurotransmitters. So basically we have these chemicals that is in our brain that keeps us emotionally balanced. And we have to do our best to make sure that we're always in balance, right? And what has food got to do with that? Well, the theory is that there are certain nutrients in our foods that will keep us balanced, that these neurotransmitters from it being in the normal level that it needs to be at. But we also have to keep in mind that there are substances in some of the foods that we eat, can you see what that brain is eating, okay, that can also deplete these neurotransmitters. Okay, and today we're going to focus in on how to build up these neurotransmitters and also how to prevent from depleting them. Because any type of imbalance can cause the mood swings to happen. And some of the low levels of neurotransmitters can cause chronic pain, insomnia, aggressive behavior, anger, anxiety, and depression, and it'll cause you to also have compulsive eating. So what kind of a diet are we talking about here, okay? What is a well-balanced diet? Well, let's get back to the nitty-gritty, okay? Just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, because there are some people that tell me, oh, I don't eat any carbs at all, and I panic, because carbohydrates are your main source of energy for your brain. And remember your neurotransmitters when you're cutting out food like that. Okay, this is actually the Eat Well plate, which is the United Kingdom's version of the USDA My Plate. We have our own, I feel like a traitor. But anyway, the only difference is the My Plate, it doesn't include that little purple area, okay? So the government is trying to make us healthy. But to me, this is more representative of what we're talking about today, okay? Because at least if we're not gonna be perfect, we can be in control. So the foods that are going to keep our neurotransmitters in good balance are basically the 4 food groups. Okay, the yellow group, breads, rice, potatoes, pasta, or the starchy foods, and the fruits and vegetables. So, and then the other third is split up among the milk and dairy foods and the protein foods, and we've got the food and drinks that we're supposed to eat in moderation. Now, you have to keep in mind that these foods are categorized based on the nutrients that they contain. So, if you take a look at this plate also, it shows you that the 1/3 of our calories should come from the carbohydrates, from the breads, rice, potatoes, pasta, and the other third's more fruits and vegetables. And the other third, again, it's split up. So the difference is the breads, rice, and potatoes plate here, area, is predominantly carbohydrate foods. It has protein, and the fat depends on how it's prepared. And the good thing is that a lot of these products have labels on them, and you can take a look at that. Now, on the other side, on the fruits are predominantly carbohydrates, and they're juices. They have some protein in them, but very minute amount of, well, the protein's about 0.5 grams of protein per like maybe a half a cup. So it's got some protein in there. Now, the vegetables are divided into either your starchy vegetables or your non-starchy vegetables. The starchy vegetables will be like your corn, your peas, lima beans, and the dry beans also are fitting in that category. But actually, that has a high protein level. So for people who are vegetarian, that category of food actually fits in the pink area, which is the high protein group. So, and the meat, fish, and eggs are the only foods here in this group that do not contain carbohydrates. It's predominantly protein and fats. Now, the milk and dairy have a good amount of carbohydrates, but it's also high in protein. So what's under that group is your fluid milk, okay, and your yogurt. The cheese actually is put into the protein category because that's mainly protein and fats. So these are the areas, okay, in this plate where you're gonna have to consume your most of your calories from to have these neurotransmitters be balanced. And the little area right down there where all the goodies are, okay, where mostly people who are having some emotional eating behavior, okay, is gonna get their calories from there. And that means that as much as possible, at least be aware that you're doing that. Okay, what are the nutrients in food that we're talking about? Where we have the large nutrients called the macronutrients and the micronutrients. The macronutrients are your carbohydrates, protein, and fats. That's where most of your calories should come from. The micronutrients are your vitamins and minerals. These help the food, they're called catalysts, so they help in the chemical reactions, in the digestion process, and also in the absorption process. So when carbohydrates are broken down, okay, the way that the body uses it is that it turns it into glucose when it's digested. So when you eat something that's high in carbohydrates, okay, the body's gonna break that down and it's gonna release it into the bloodstream as glucose. That is the way that the body uses it for energy, so it can go to the cells. But in doing so, it releases a hormone called insulin that comes out and allows for that to happen. Protein, when it's broken down, Okay, it's broken into amino acids. That's the way the body also can use it. And the fats are broken down into fatty acids. So there's a lot of different recommendations of how we should break up our calories. So these are just a suggestion. So this shows that carbohydrates should provide half of your total calories. Okay, so about 25 to 30% fat and 10 to 15% protein. So the vitamins or minerals are necessary because you need them to make sure that the chemical reaction happens, that you can get most of your energy from food with these nutrients. So carbohydrate foods, what are they? So we talked about fruits and their juices. It's best to eat them as fruits rather than juice, because then what happens? The juices enter your bloodstream too quickly as well. And if that's all you're having, you can get a crash as well if you drink too much. So you have your grains, and this is pasta. So that's also carbohydrates. And the breads and cereals, that's where the carbohydrates are. Corn, rice, taro root. A serving size is about a half a cup of potatoes is going to give you 15 grams of carbohydrates, and a third of a cup of rice will give you about 15 grams. So a whole cup is going to give you 45 grams of carbohydrates. Your brain needs about 130 to 150 grams of carbohydrates per day, okay, for your brain to work. Now, yogurt and milk, this group, has good amount of carbohydrates, but it's also high in protein. So people who are vegetarian, they can use this to also get their protein. And the dried beans and peas contain a great amount of protein as well as carbohydrates. So like a half a cup of these beans can give you about 7 grams of protein, which is equivalent to about 1 ounce of meat. Now protein, okay, cheese is actually considered mainly protein and fats, and all meats and fish. This is your flesh protein that gives you mainly, again, protein and no carbohydrates. So the fats and oils, you need that because of the free fatty acids. There's a lot of vitamins in there that's fat soluble that is only provided by this food group. So choose your fats wisely. So avocado is actually considered a fat, and if you're putting it in a sandwich, it might be a better choice than, let's say, mayonnaise. Although nowadays there's mayonnaise that's made with olive oil, so that's also a good source. Butter or margarine, these are all fats and oils. And probably the best fats to have are the ones that come from nuts, because they also contain protein and lots of vitamins and minerals. So how does neurotransmitters work? Well, first of all, they're made from amino acid, and they control a majority of our body function and also affects our moods and thoughts. How it works is that they work as like chemical messengers, relaying information from the sending neuron to the receiving neuron. So, and there are these neurotransmitters are released to make sure that the appropriate action happens. So, for example, you come home and you decided you're going to have a healthy dinner. You're going to make a healthy dinner, an unaccustomed habit. So you go and you're making your food, and you decided that, oh, I think I have to do some laundry. So you go upstairs while you're waiting for the food to cook, right? And so you go upstairs and put some laundry, and you get kind of distracted up there, and you're going along having fun. All of a sudden, the alarm, the smoke alarm goes off, and there's smoke all over, and you go. Then you get this emotion of surprise. You go, oh my God, OMG, you can use other words, of course. And you go running down the stairs. You forgot that you have a bum knee because you didn't feel it. And then you're thinking to yourself, oh, my house is going to burn down. So all these thoughts are happening. And you go to the kitchen and you quickly remove that pot. And you forgot about your pot holder, and you probably burned your hand, but you really didn't feel it. And you turn it off. Now, the neurotransmitters are responsible for all that, all those emotions. Okay? And so then how do you feel? Now you know that the house didn't burn down. You feel calmer and go, oh my gosh, the house could have burned down. So all of these things, these are neurotransmitters in action, balancing each other. So you have the neurotransmitters that are excitatory, okay? They make sure that you're able to come down the stairs and think quickly. Okay, and then later on, after everything has calmed down, okay, there are other set of neurotransmitters that calm you down. So this is what happens when we do our emotional eating. Because when we feel sad, right, this is kind of like the pot burning. And you're thinking, oh gosh, I'm feeling sad. And so the nerve impulse, that is the message, is released. And then the neurotransmitters that affects our emotion, that's released there and allows us to be happier. If you believe in that, it's gonna work. Okay, so the idea of making sure that we maintain these neurotransmitters will make sure that we have a faster reaction time with these events. So the ones that we're going to talk about are your serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, and endorphins. These are the neurotransmitters that can be affected with food and how we think, which is our attitude and exercise. So this is the balance. The dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine, and endorphins are your excitatory neurotransmitters. Okay, they make us go, and they make sure that we have good reaction time. The serotonin is kind of like the dimmer switch or the turn-off switch, because we can't always be in that state. Okay, so the serotonin is our good mood neurotransmitter. Okay, hopefully after we've had a long day at work, we just want to be able to relax. So supposedly the serotonin levels are hopefully we have a good amount of it so that it can be released into our system to make us feel relaxed and be able to have normal sleep, which also can regulate appetite and blood pressure, body temperature, and increases our concentration and improves our memory. Sounds really good, right? So you want to make sure that you have good amount of serotonin. So it also is, low levels is actually linked with major depression. And one of the major depression is SAD, and this is caused by a lack of sunlight, also called the winter blues. And the idea is the body produces excess melatonin by depleting our serotonin stores. And melatonin is a hormone that regulates our sleep and wake cycles. So the way it works is that the serotonin levels gets reduced down to melatonin. So melatonin makes us sleep. So with SAD, people usually sleep too much. So the remedy is light therapy and a balanced diet. And so light therapy, there are different types. One that can mimic actual sunlight, so it goes up, it turns on slowly, or you can have a blast of it. But I think the recommendation is a half hour to maybe 2 hours. And having a carbohydrates and protein diet. So again, you know where to find that in this plate. So the idea is that supposedly when our serotonin levels drop, we crave carbohydrates. And this will allow for the insulin to be released. Because remember, when carbohydrates are consumed, it turns into glucose units. And the only way that that's going to get into the bloodstream where it's used for energy is when that insulin is released. So when it does that, it also allows other amino acids to enter the muscles. That leaves the tryptophan. Tryptophan is an amino acid that the body cannot make. It has to be taken in by food. So for some reason, the brain doesn't accept it as readily if there are other amino acids in the system. So everything else gets absorbed into the brain except for the tryptophan. So when you eat a high carbohydrate foods, which is a lower protein source, there's not that many other amino acids in there. So all the other amino acids are cleared to go into the muscles except for the tryptophan, and then that itself allows for the tryptophan to enter the brain. And in the brain, it's converted to this another brain chemical, 5-hydroxytryptophan, and it's in this form that serotonin levels are made in the brain. And we need vitamins and minerals. Again, this is the reason why we need a well-balanced diet, because just the carbohydrates alone can't do it, and amino acids alone. So it needs the help of the vitamins and the minerals that are also in the other food groups. So the best is to have that insulin response, right? So that it can clear all the other amino acids to the muscles and allows for the tryptophan to enter the brain. So the best is to have a combination of both, is to have a diet, also other foods that have high tryptophan levels that you're gonna find in eggs, fish, mainly in the meat section, okay? The nuts or peanuts, pumpkin and sunflower seeds, okay, which is high in tryptophan. And here's the sesame seeds. So this is a better combination because it's on the bread. So the bread will allow for that carbohydrate to enter and then also have an insulin response. Garbanzo beans, cottage cheese, and bananas are good combinations. And there's a good old milk with a little chocolate in there to give a treat. Now, I hope you saw that there was a portion there. Do you see the portions? They're very small portions that are being emphasized. Now, dopamine, this is one of your excitatory neurotransmitter, the get-up-and-go neurotransmitter. It makes you alert, increase awareness, increase motivation, enthusiasm, competitive spirit, mild aggression. So you want to go to work and you want to get that raise. You know, you want to get your dopamine level up. Coordinated muscle movement, sexual arousal. I didn't have a picture on that. I actually deleted it. So, because I didn't want to get a memo. But anyway, so during the time, you know, during that episode when you're running down the stairs, the dopamine levels are right there. Hopefully you have enough of it so that you have quick reaction time and you're alert and you're aware and you have coordinated muscle movements so you can run down the stairs without falling. So the low levels may cause, of course, kind of self-explanatory, lack of energy, depression, seclusion, social withdrawal, and these are the causes of depletion. Stress, poor sleep, alcohol, caffeine, and sugar. So do your best to cut down on stress, and that's why you're here today. You learn Tai Chi and all those exercises to get your stress level down, right? And hopefully you'll know by today what kind of things to eat so to induce a good night's sleep so you can wake up in the morning and feel refreshed. But, so I think instead of eating foods here that's going to cause your dopamine levels to go up, because it's actually tyrosine, which is another amino acid that's responsible for making this neurotransmitter. Actually, the body can make it. Now, the other one with the serotonin, the tryptophan, the body can't make that, so you need to get that from food. So with this, I think the emphasis should be on working on the causes of depletion. What do you think? Right? Do you think we can do that? That's why we're here, right? Okay. So let's talk about alcohol, caffeine, and sugar. Isn't this a pretty picture? I don't drink, but this makes me want to drink. But anyway, this is probably the food or whatever, the beverage that can cause the widest mood swings and also has an unpredictable effect on your behavior. If you've ever drank before, okay, these are some of the things that can happen. Okay. Well, I'll just tell you a story. I sing in some bars. And I've seen this happen many, many times. Somebody comes in quiet, well-reserved, and then pretty soon they're dancing on the dance floor, and all of a sudden they're doing these moves that makes me want to close my eyes. But anyway, so just be aware. You might want to try this at home first, okay, before you go out. So alcohol is absorbed in the intestines. So if you want to have just this little buzz, but you don't want to go out of control, okay, it's probably best to eat before drinking, okay? Not that I'm encouraging drinking. I found this, and it looks like it's in the 1940s, right? Coffee makes it possible to get out of bed, and chocolate makes it worthwhile. Boy, we've been addicted ever since back then. Of course, that's before my time. Just kidding. I'm looking here, I'm probably old enough to be your mother, some of you. So anyway, caffeine and sugar. The claim, coffee improves energy and mental performance. Well, there's been strong evidence that show that it can improve focus, attention, elevates the mood, and increase your energy level. And I think the article that I read this from, I think they're from Starbucks. Because they said, you don't have to worry about getting addicted because caffeine use is self-limiting. Because if you get too much, you know, you're going to get jittery, you're going to get anxiety, and that will make you stop. But I think there's some withdrawals that happens, right? Okay. I know, that's my only addiction. Okay, cut that off, right? Anyway, okay, how about sugars? Okay, we're talking about simple sugars here, like the ones you find in pies, cakes, cookies, ice cream. With me? That's going to be absorbed quickly, remember. If you have a candy bar, what's going to happen? You're going to have that sudden release of insulin. Insulin clears the sugar out of your system. So if your sugar is going up too fast, the body's going to respond that it's going to have a high level of sugar in there, so it's going to over-release the insulin, and it's going to keep working to the point where you crash because now you get the low blood sugar. So what do? You're probably going to have another fix, right? So just imagine the vicious cycle. So as much as possible, try to minimize these areas. So again, we talked about dopamine as being made from the amino acid tyramine. So if you really believe in it, then you want to increase your dopamine levels because you figure that you don't want to cut out your alcohol so much and your sugar or your caffeine. So increase dopamine foods with protein-rich foods. Okay, it's also high in, let's see, what is this? That's why I put those little thing. Okay, that's actually for me. So if it went up too fast and down, let's say, oh yeah, that's what that is. This is spinach, I think, and mustard greens. Okay, and of course we know about protein foods now because we talk so much about that in that, that plate. And tofu is a very good source also, and the good old eggs. Okay, norepinephrine. Remember, again, the episode in the kitchen. This is very much involved. This is fight and flight response. This raises your heart rate so that the blood flow could go, increase blood flow to the muscles. You can run downstairs and think quickly. Increases alertness, reaction times, concentration. So if you need to, again, if you're being chased by a bull, I don't know where that would be. And dopamine can be converted into norepinephrine and epinephrine. So, what are the protein-rich foods to increase? Okay, we got the meat group: beef, chicken, turkey, lamb, pork, fish, okay, seafood, eggs, plant proteins if you're vegetarian, legumes, dried beans, and peas, and tofu, milk and dairy, milk, cheese, and yogurt. Again, you'll find that here in the blue area. Endorphins, what are they? They're body's natural pain medication. So they make you feel good, make you lift up your mood, positive mood, decrease pain sensitivity, reduce stress, and they're released when you feel pain and when you exercise. Runner's high, they talk about that. Well, endorphins are released there. And also in the form of when you're starving, I guess that's also released. So again, think about the kitchen episode. When you touch the pan, probably, you probably couldn't have touched that if you're just contemplating touching it. But the endorphins are released to kind of decrease that pain sensation. And also, you didn't realize you had that pain in your knee because also you have endorphins in your system. Okay, low levels of endorphins makes you, again, fat crave because that makes you feel good because fat does that. So desserts with fats and sugar like chocolate release endorphins. Endorphins act as natural tranquilizer. Look at this, okay? Because of the sugar, because that makes you release the serotonin that makes you feel calm. Okay, it also contains fat. Too much is not always that good, okay? But I guess if you're gonna fall in there and die, I guess you'll be in heaven. With our sedentary desk jobs, we should take walks after lunch to get the endorphins flowing. And this guy says endorphins. I never touched this stuff. So you can see his big beer belly there, right? So this is another way to increase your endorphins. It is with exercise. So if you're feeling like you might be in pain and you're starting to feel like you want that ice cream, go out for a walk. Hopefully it's not your legs that's causing you pain and you can't walk. So just a brief review here. Dopamine, okay, increase your levels with protein, norepinephrine, protein, serotonin, carbohydrate foods. Okay, so how to just eat the right amount so we don't get depressed because we ate too much and now we've gained weight. So basically in the morning you want to increase your dopamine because you want to keep that refreshed feeling. So you want to include some protein along with your carbohydrates. So I saw some food out there. So you got the yogurt and some fruit. Okay, string cheese and crackers is another good combination. Egg and whole grain toast or English muffin. Avoid donuts, pastries, high-fat muffins, sweetened beverage. You know what's going to happen. You're going to go up and then you're going to go down and you're going to crash. Then you're going to reach for the coffee and other things that can make you crash later on. So these are some examples. So if you want to eat lunch food at breakfast, that's fine. So you have your egg, that's your protein source. And some cultures, this is actually used as a breakfast food. Or you can have a burrito, but this is a pretty big burrito. So again, you've got your meats, in the form of maybe Canadian bacon, cheese. Your eggs is all your protein, and you have your tortilla, okay, which is your carbohydrate. That's going to give you some energy as well. So lunch, you want to continue to maintain that dopamine. So you want to add about 3 to 4 ounces of protein. So again, it's not really a lot. Okay, that's about the size of the palm of your hand. So this is a good portion here. You've got the greens going and the vegetables. Okay, so put a little protein in your salads. People say, oh, no, I just had salad for lunch. You're not going to be, full until the next meal. You're going to end up having a low around about 3 o'clock, and you're going to reach for that something sweet. So add the protein, because that also helps keep you satisfied for a longer time. Now, if you eat all of this, what's going to happen? Crash. So maybe have like a couple of tortillas, and that's a fajita, chicken or beef, and just put more lettuce and tomatoes in there to keep you full, and drink lots of water. And if you just have a little rice, okay, like maybe a third of a cup, and this is mainly more protein. So it's just about balancing your carbohydrates and protein and fats. So mainly for breakfast and lunch, you want to emphasize more of the protein and a little amount of the carbohydrates, and try to minimize the fat as much as you can, okay, because you don't really need a whole lot. So mid-afternoon, again, you want to maintain that dopamine, so you want to have little, again, more protein with a little fat and carbohydrates, like nut butters with fruit or crackers, nuts with dried fruits, slow plain or plain yogurt. And these are some examples. Okay, again, take a look at the portions. You can have a little bit more, that's hummus dip. Yogurt with fruit, cheese, and crackers. Okay, so maybe you can have 2 to 3 crackers, and an ounce of cheese might be enough to get you going till dinner time. So dinner, you want to increase your serotonin, right? Because you want to feel calm, cool, and collected. So you want to limit the protein, because protein makes you alert and awake. You want to increase your carbohydrate foods at dinner. So have a little bit more pasta and less of the protein, fewer meatballs. This is an Afghani bread. Yum. It's good. They come like in these big pieces. And this is considered like a comfort food, so you've got a lot of carbohydrates in there. You got the bread, you have the banana. How about that? If you eat that for lunch, you're going to be falling asleep for sure. So you have to determine when you get hungry. Is it an emotional hunger or physical hunger? So if your stomach is growling and you know you haven't eaten in a while, that's probably physical hunger, okay? So that means you need to fuel up, and fuel up with the good amount of protein and good carbohydrates, and remember the portions. So if you're tired, sad, bored, depressed, or anxious, that's probably emotional hunger. And you're gonna reach for foods that are in that purple section. If it's sudden hunger, okay, that means that's emotional, because physical hunger is a little bit more gradual. And if you're craving for a particular food and nothing else is gonna do, that's emotional. Physical hunger is open to all food options. If you need instant gratification, okay, physical hunger is more patient. So the problem is that if you're doing a lot of emotional eating, you're gonna be guilty afterwards, and then what? You're gonna feel worse later. So these are some of the foods. I think if I'm happy, I'll probably eat ice cream or cookies. So it's gonna depend on what you crave and whatever mood you're in. So, but anyway, whatever it is, okay, watch the portions. That's why they have those snack packs right now. Are they in like 100-calorie bags? Because people have no self-control. People just eat 3 or 4 of them. And they go, you know what? I'll save more money if I get the big pack. But really, that is not the point. You can do it yourself. You know, if you want to save money, you can just count it out and put it in one of those little snack bags. Save money that way. So if you're going to have a cookie because that's what you really want, you know what? You know, get one of these and share it with somebody, and make sure you can't get at the rest of them. You know, like the Girl Scout cookies, right? Just get a couple. Those are addicting. They put them in those little big things. Okay, and some food really, they manufacture it so that it really gets to our heart, literally. Okay, but whatever it is, just remember, portions, portions, portions. Because if you eat to suit your mood, you're going to be wearing your mood. This is Catherine Zeta-Jones. This is how she would look like if she gained a lot of weight. So exercise is always good in cutting down these cravings. So how much should we eat? Well, if you limit it to 300 to 500 calories per meal, I showed you guys some of those examples. Those are about 300 to 500 calories. And balance out your carbohydrates with protein at each meal. Okay, and also snacks, because that stabilizes your blood sugar. Protein will do that. And choose lower fat choices as often as possible. And try to eat, shorten up that time in between meals, because that's going to lead to craving. Okay, so 3 to 4 hours, maybe even 2 to 4. So the omega-3 fatty acids, these are your good fats, increase your serotonin and helps with depression. Salmon, sardines, trout, herring, these are the good sources. Flaxseed oil, pumpkin seeds, nuts, walnuts, pecans, hazelnuts. Again, if you just follow the guidelines, that Eat Well plate or that USDA My plate, okay, you're sure you're going to be balancing out your neurotransmitters, making you healthy at the same time. So these are the catalysts that makes your serotonin levels up. Leafy greens, sunflower seeds, beets, oranges. Okay, these are your B vitamins. Nuts and legumes. Vitamin D, so if you're exercising, go out during the day so you can catch some sunlight. You only need 15 minutes. That increases your serotonin levels. Okay, salmon, mackerel, and tuna are good sources. And some non-food ways to feel good. Okay, so dopamine to get you going, okay? That means high-protein foods. Try to cut down on the alcohol, the caffeine, and the sugar. Serotonin, increase your carbohydrate because of the insulin response to allow the tryptophan to enter the brain cells. And exercise, okay, increases your endorphin levels. And try to do some yoga or some meditation to kind of calm your brain. And if your husband's annoying you, send him out on a fishing trip. That will decrease your levels of stress. Okay, protein. Choose the lower fat protein sources, the ones that are healthier for you. White meat of chicken, turkey, fish. Carbohydrate foods. Okay, choose the whole grain breads and cereals. Lots of fruits, vegetables, fats, the good fats, avocado, and drink lots of water. Because without water, this is not going to happen, okay? The chemical reaction is not going to take place. You need at least like 8 cups per day, sometimes more, depending on your level of activity and any kind of maybe medical condition that you have. But whatever you do, just laugh it off. Laugh therapy, I believe in that. Laughter is the best medicine. Thank you.